Today I'm going to be working with Distress Oxide Inks and my jelly plate. So I'm going to start with my 5x7 jelly plate, and I've got some stencils. I have some Tim Holtz Ideology. These are like numbers and letters, and they're on cardboard, but it's a really thick cardboard. And then I picked up these, I guess they're like clay texture plates for using on your clay or polymer. And these are new to Dollar Tree. I picked up 3. I think those were the only 3 that I could find, and they have a double side to each of them. So I thought I'd maybe try to see if I can get any impression with these. I also picked up this little clay roller from Michael's. I'm starting with my favorite distress colors. I've got picked raspberry, abandoned coral, spiced marmalade, squeezed lemonade, twisted citron, peacock feathers, and salty ocean. I'll also throw in later on, you'll see me use seedless preserves and rusty hinge, but for now I'm just sticking with these bright colors, spring happy colors, and I'm creating an ombre. So I like to start with just putting some ink down on the gel plate, and then once I have the colors down, I will brayer them out. Although distress inks are harder to see on the jelly plate, one of the things that I really enjoy about working with them is that they don't dry as quickly as acrylic inks, so I do find that I have a longer working time when I'm brayering them out and when I'm working with textures. Now, working with these little clay textures, especially this one that you have to roll, your fingers will get inky, which is fine. I don't mind. This is a water-based ink, and it will come right off. Starting with these little clay textures to see how much of an impression this is going to make with Distress Oxide Inks. I wasn't expecting this to be very much impression. They were easy to clean though. So these little plates, I just had a microfiber cloth and the ink rubbed off really easily. With a baby wipe, it would come off easily as well. And I'm just using 2 different texture plates. I wanted to restock my backgrounds for some cards, and that's why I'm going to be using 110 pound Nina White cardstock today. For my first print, you can see the texture and the impressions. It's not the best transfer of color. Always the first round with the distress ink, it's going to be a lighter color, but you can always add color by brayering it out again. And I didn't clean my brayer in between this print, so it still had the ink left on it from the prior brayer off, and you're able to re-roll that ink back onto the gel plate and get a little bit of a darker color onto your gel print. In between here, I'm just using a piece of tissue paper just to make sure I've pulled up any leftover ink that was on the gel plate before I move on to some new colors. This time I'm going to use my squeezed lemonade. These are going to be cooler colors. They'll come in with the rest of the colors, the twisted citron, the peacock feathers, and the salty ocean. That's a little bit splotchy, so I'm going to come in with another round of color. This time I'm going to add some texture to the second layer. These are cardboard, so the paint or the ink definitely removes easily, and then I use this little brayer just to make sure I'm getting enough pressure. And it will also brayer away some of the ink from the inside of the letters and the numbers, and that makes a really nice impression as well. So here you have a very nice layer on top of the other layer. It is tone on tone, but it's just slightly darker. It doesn't have a lot of contrast, so I'm going to try to pull in just a little bit more contrast here. I'm bringing in all the same colors. And this time I added the picked raspberry up at the top with the salty ocean, hoping for a purple. And then I'll do the same thing and just brayer on some of this alphabet number texture. Then I've got this embossed card, and this is just going to be some floral details. So this is the third layer. And you can see it helped at the top where the purple color was created, and that helped it pop from the background a little bit. The greens and the yellows still blended in pretty much, but that's okay because I'm going to keep layering as I go here. Again, I'm just trying to clean my brayer and my jelly plate, so I'm just using a piece of tissue paper to kind of brayer off the additional ink. Now I'm wanting to build up a little more color, so I'm using this Seedless Preserves in Rusty Hinge. Since I really loved how those numbers and letter textures were working, I pretty much used those throughout this entire video with all of these prints that I'm doing, just mixing up which ones I use together and brayering different areas. And then for my design, I just keep using this floral embossed piece of cardstock. So I went back to the first print, the one with the pink and the yellow. And remember on the gel plate, it's the Seedless Preserves and the Rusty Hinge, so a purple and an orange. And I think that definitely got the design to stand out on that pink and yellow background. This is some Dragonfly Glaze. I forgot to shake my Dragonfly Glaze, so it did leave behind some splotchy areas, but I just went with it anyway. Now this is an acrylic paint going over Distress ink that I didn't wash off of my gel plate, so it will usually have a little tint of whatever the colors were on the gel plate transferred onto the acrylic paint. And here is the layer on top of this blue and green and yellow print. I wanted to have a little bit of shine going on for this one to give it some interest. Now I'm ready to incorporate some black into my jelly prints. This is just Mars Black, and the brand is Royal Langnickel. This made a very nice transfer with a lot of the black paint still being wet. So I went in with my pink print. Now you can see there's a lot of black left on the gel plate, but there was a decent amount that transferred onto my gel print, and I think it looks really cool like this. Kind of looks like it has depth and some variety. And you can still really see the print in the background. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. With what was left on the gel plate for my acrylic ink, I just left that and I brayered my cool colors over the top. Sometimes when I put Distress inks over a print that has acrylic paint, I can see a little bit of the design on my print. It wasn't showing up too clear with this. It could be because I didn't have a full application of the paint on the plate because I had pulled some of it up. But if you have a bit of a thicker application and you let it dry and then use your Distress inks over the top, it acts a little bit like a mask and you can see the design that is left from the paint. It's pretty cool. Wasn't working out so great this time, but I thought I'd try it anyway. Since I wasn't getting much of a design on that last print, I went in with these 3 iridescent colors, a purple, a blue, and a green. I brayered those out. I wanted to mimic the colors I had used with my Distress Oxide inks. Since this was acrylic paint, I did let this dry for about 5 minutes before I pulled it. The shimmery iridescent paint didn't show up too great on this print. It kind of looked like a matte color. I'm not sure if it was because of the Distress inks in the background or if my paints maybe just needed to be shaken up a little bit, but it wasn't as shiny as I thought it was going to be. So I did shake my paints and I came in with another coat of the iridescent paints. Then I came in with my embossed texture. This had a little more of the iridescent shine on it. While this was still wet, I did go in with a clean piece of my 110-pound cardstock. This did not transfer very well, so I decided to let that dry on the plate, and then I came in with some black paint. And I have this little brayer that I had messed up when I was trying to clean it. I made all these little holes in it, or divots, whatever you want to call them. And now I just use it to make some fun texture on it, the jelly plate. To remove a little bit of the paint in the center, I just took my brayer and just brayered out wherever I wanted to try to remove some paint. Once it's dry, you can't really get it to remove, so I was trying to find if there was any wet paint left. Coming in with my orange and yellow. It's nice and bright, so I'm going to grunge it up a little bit. Adding in some abandoned coral, some spiced marmalade, and some of my twisted citron. And this is color blocking in just a little bit of extra color on the corners and the edges. Then I'm just kind of going to do the same process where I just brayer out a little bit more ink just in the areas where I'm wanting to add color. So here's the next layer, and it's starting to come together. I like that you can see the words and the numbers. I guess they're not words, the letters and the numbers. So I thought I'd press my luck and try just a little bit of a darker combination. I've got Uncharted Mariner and Seedless Preserves. So this layer, it kind of covered up some of that previous layer. So I decided to stop there with the Distress inks. And then I went ahead and put down some gold behind what was left on my jelly plate, all those layers. Gold is a little bit translucent, so you can see through it just a little. I did use a plain piece of my cardstock, so I'm just using a fresh piece here. And again, I do let this print dry on the jelly plate for about 10 minutes. And when I pulled this up, it was quite interesting. I really liked how the iridescent colors were showing up over the black, but not so much over the other areas, the lighter areas, but definitely over those black letters and numbers. I thought that was really cool. I wasn't expecting that, so I definitely love how that turned out. Here I'm going to bring in some more distress, so I've got more black that I'm going to be putting along kind of like the edges of my gel plate. I like to use my 2-inch brayer for this just because it keeps it small. I don't want it to cover the entire gel plate. And I feel like it also helps with the grunginess if I want some lighter and darker areas. And then of course coming in with my decorative brayer is what I'm going to call it. That will definitely kind of bring in some different layers of the grungy layer. And then I'll just keep layering in these alphabet and numeric stencils. And then I have a lot of extra dimension that I've added onto my print, and I think it just looks really cool. It's very grungy looking, but it also just adds dimension and interest as you turn the page. I've got to add some dimension and some interest to this print, so that's what I'll work on next. I'm going to use these 3 colors of Dragonfly Glaze, and I will make an ombre out of the 3 colors. This layer is going to be used to pull up all that black paint that is left on the gel plate, and then it will have a shine to it as well. And I'm adding in some of the stencil texture as well. I only let this one dry for about a minute just to pull up some of that texture, but I didn't let it dry completely. So there was still some of the black left on the gel plate. But this does give it a lot more interest, and it definitely looks more distressed. So just leaving that black on my gel plate, I'm going in with 3 more colors. go through the same steps. Just remove some of the stencil designs here. And here we have a nice purple to orange and yellow print. It's just the first layer, so I'll do another layer. This time I did the entire background with the floral print and then layered that right on top, and it was in the same colors. Now I'm adding my darker colors in. I'm doing some Uncharted Mariner at the top and some of the Twisted Citron at the bottom. And I'll just layer that right on top of that print. I really like how the blue mixed in with the Seedless Preserves and created almost a darker purple color. So I wanted to have a similar thing happen with the yellow, where I turn my turquoise here, the Peacock Feathers, into more of a green when it mixes with the yellow. And that's exactly what it did. I think it looks really cool. It does need some distressing, so let's add in some black. And then I'll just layer that right on top of this print while the paint is still slightly wet, although some parts of it did start to dry. And there you can see it only pulled up the parts that were still wet, and it looks really cool like this. I think this looks really neat, especially the black areas that are super intense and then some that are kind of washed out. Then I'm going to put some of my black paint in the center just so that I could capture some grunginess in the middle there where there was no paint. And I'll just use this floral background. And now I have some grunginess in the center as well, and it just kind of moves the eye around the page. You could have just left it with the around the border, which I liked that as well. I just wanted to get a little something going in the center. Then I just put my 3 Enchanted paint colors down and then blended those out. And just to pull this final layer off of the gel plate, I'm going to use this tissue paper that I've been working with. And there we have my last print for this printing session. The nice thing about having some tissue paper is you could rip this apart very easily and catch some of that grunge on some of the prints that maybe didn't have grunge exactly where you wanted it, and you could add it in using the tissue paper. So that's probably how I'll use that. And then let's take a look at the prints that I made today. I just love how that iridescent shine comes across over the black paint. I think it's so pretty. You can see it's not as vibrant when it's on the color part of it, but it's definitely standing out there on the black. So this is probably my favorite in that it was kind of unexpected. I really didn't anticipate that happening, and I really just love it. Every time I look at it, it just catches my eye. This one's nice. Probably has a little bit too much shine all in one layer for me, but again, this is one that I would either cut up or use as a die cut, and I could definitely get some use out of this one. I love this one. This one actually doesn't have any sparkle in it, no glitter. It's just the black paint over the top of the Distress inks, and I think this one would make a great background. I really do like how this one turned out. It's pretty subtle, and I love it. This one to me is probably a more fun, grungy looking one. This is something that I really appreciate how it turned out, especially those numbers at the top that kind of fade into the background, and then the bold alpha letters in the front on the bottom. I really like this. I love the colors on this one too. This print would make a nice background as well. It's a very nice ombre. It's got the ink colors, the Oxide Ink colors. It blended out really nicely, so I could definitely use that. And then of course this blue, green, yellow one that has a lot of layers to it. If you hold it in the light, it has shine, and it's got the grunge, so I do love the colors on that one as well. It's hard for me to pick. I like them all. So my favorites, I would say, would be that first favorite would be this one with the purple and green and blue against the black paint. And then the next favorite would be the one with the grungy letters and numbers. Third favorite is probably the neutral with the black over the top. And fourth favorite is going to be the blue, green, and yellow with the grungy. The other two I would probably say I'll use for sure, but I'd probably be more comfortable ripping those up and definitely getting them altered. So the colors, they do well together though, because they're all Oxide inks, and I think they're a nice soft tone and definitely the colors that I enjoy working with. So let me know in the comments which one is your favorite, and would you recreate one with Distress inks and acrylic paints, or do you prefer using just one ink at a time? I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching. In the meantime, happy crafting, y'all.